I was wondering, where am I going with this? My intention wasn't to go any further.
This is the illusion. I'm in control. He's throwing a bomb into his life.
I felt like I just had the biggest con pulled over me.
Aries was the bad girl, somebody that it's okay to get dirty and wrong with.
It gives you excitement, it gives you adventure, power, control. The women worship you, adore you. It's just not real.
I was just shocked and overwhelmed. I just kept saying, I don't know who you are. I don't know how I can live with a stranger.
We were sitting down talking, drinking wine, and she wanted me to make a move. My conscience was telling me, don't go any further. It was hard for me to think that my marriage to Sharon ran its course, but there was an excitement of doing something that you shouldn't be doing. It's like you're gambling and you're gonna just bet it all. That's when it became officially an affair.
I remember first meeting Sean Thanksgiving weekend, all the way back then, 1997.
I met Sharon at a nightclub. She was smart, she was athletic.
The physical chemistry was great. I had never given out my number previously to anybody. It was something about him that was just kind of different, like safe.
We would see each other all the time, as often as we could. The natural comfort was there. It just seemed easy to tell her things. My family issues, I really didn't tell anybody, not even my best friend growing up. My mother, she was diagnosed as having schizophrenia. Being the oldest, I basically had to be responsible for doing a lot of paying her bills and buying groceries for her. It was just extremely difficult.
Him sharing that side with me really made me appreciate and love him. And it really showed me how much he loved his family. The first time I remember saying, I love you, I just remember not feeling afraid to say those words and him not hesitating to say them back.
That's where we started talking about, a long-term future together. The way she looked in the dress, she was so beautiful. I actually felt so happy that I cried.
We had this impression that we were just gonna take over the world kind of thing. We were on our way. I was teaching, he was in engineering. And I thought we'd just be happy, strong, successful, both in our careers and in our marriage.
6 months after we got married, we bought our first house.
We started pouring all of our time and energy into trying to build a home. And in February, we found out that I was pregnant. It was a really happy time for us. His father started getting really sick then too.
He was not well. He had lymphoma.
I would give suggestions. Maybe you want me to come to the hospital with you, and everything would be like, no, I'm okay, don't worry about it.
I felt for me to ask for help for taking care of my parents, it's my responsibility. It's my obligation as the son. No one else is supposed to do but you.
When couples like Sharon and Sean come and begin to start therapy, we start helping the couple understand how disconnected they've become from each other. I could see he's taking the man role. Men are supposed to be strong and silent. And that's what he tries to do. He tries to cope with everything. And he stops turning to his wife. He stops doing what he did in the beginning, which is to turn to her for love and support.
There's a certain point in time that the cancer got worse. You're thinking things like, is my dad going to be around before the baby's born?
When Sean's father died, it hit him really, really hard. But it hit him internally. He would come home exhausted and drained, and he would just look and feel just this unhappiness about him.
Knowing that he's really gone, that was really rough. I was slowly shutting down more.
Can you say, don't be sad about your dad anymore and be happy about this new baby? Like, that doesn't seem fair. It was definitely a rough time for both of us. Sean was there the whole time, holding my hand and, talking me through contractions and things like that.
The birth of Morgan was one of the best days of my life.
The joy of that day and everything else that was going on around us, it kind of made it a little bit bittersweet. You come back home with the baby, but reality hits that you are dealing with the death in a family, and you got to go back to work, and everybody's got to go back to their lives.
After the birth of Morgan, my mom's mental state was getting worse. It was to a point she didn't even know that what she's doing doesn't make sense.
The responsibility that he had with his mom increased exponentially. I remember it was constant.
It was getting to the point I have to be there even more often just to make sure that she doesn't poison herself because she's not paying attention to what she's doing.
It's almost like he never gave himself a break. I would just be alone with this new baby. I would be up at night with her. That's when I started feeling really lonely. I wanted her to have a relationship with her father. I started really getting on his case about how he needs to step up as a father.
I heard stuff like, oh, you're not there enough, you're not doing much for your daughter. It felt like an attack.
Sharon understood on an intellectual level that Sean was trying to be a good son, but there was kind of an emotional starvation setting in. When she would question his dedication, he would feel blamed and criticized. He wouldn't know how to deal with it, so he would simply shut down and move away. It was like Sharon became the enemy.
I felt that she didn't really understand what's really going on. Like, this is just all on me. I felt like I was beginning to check out of the relationship. I just wanted the feeling of just someone wanting to talk to you and liking you and not seeing anything wrong with you. It was just something that would just take my mind away of all the issues I was going through. Having women flirt with me, and I guess I was flirting back, there was a feeling there of a rush. But my intention wasn't to go any further.
This is the illusion. I'm in control. And as long as I just talk, nothing will really happen here. But what he doesn't see is that it's still part of a movement of him turning to the outside. Sean's expressing the basic hunger to get the message that we're liked, we're desired, someone thinks we're special. So when someone else gives it to us, it's like this amazing relief. Tricky part is, then we're turning away from our partner.
I felt possibly that I didn't want to be in a relationship with Sharon anymore. When I was home with Sharon, I felt bad what I was doing and I felt guilty, but then I also felt lost of connection. I basically was looking. Deborah, she seemed like she wanted me. And that's what I wanted. Someone that wanted me. We'd make little silly games, trying to distract each other while trying to make a shot. I would bump her. She would lean over so I can see her breast. I was a little bit excited and I was a little bit nervous. My conscience was telling me, don't go any further. But it didn't stop me. I was really thinking, well, I'm actually going to cross the line here. I drove her back to her place, and I came inside, and she offered me a glass of wine. We started flirting sexually again, just, touching each other. And then we started kissing. Then it led from the living room to her bedroom. We were kissing and undressing each other. It was lustful. I felt like a rush, as soon as we started going into it. It was like a snowball effect. I felt good afterwards. My stress was reduced. I felt happy. For some reason, I just felt better after the night was done.
An affair starts with people feeling connected and valued. Once you start to have sex with somebody, you are just flooded with this sense of calm contentment, like everything's right with the world. That's intoxicating. Sharon and Sean are a very good example of how disconnection leads to a sort of slippery slope.
One of the things I started doing as I started seeing Deborah was making excuses in order to not draw any suspicion.
What he would usually tell me is that he would have to work out of town. I didn't think anything of it. He's gone on business trips before. At that point, Sean was really checked out. I just thought it was maybe the stress of having a child, but I just thought it was something that we could work through.
I was wondering, where am I going with this? I just wasn't sure where my head was at. It was hard for me to think that my marriage to Sharon ran its course for me, but I didn't know how the situation was going to untangle itself. After a couple weeks with Deborah, I did take my ring off. I told Deborah I was separated.
There's an emotional truth to that. He says to her basically, I'm available for a long-term relationship. I mean, he's so confused at that point and so overwhelmed. He's just trying to play two ends against the middle. He's throwing a bomb into his life.
A couple years after the baby was born, I was sitting at home and I got a phone call from a woman. And she said she was seeing my husband. I remember feeling like someone had just punched me in the stomach. This life, just in an instant, it's over. I was just devastated. I don't even know how she got my number. I never even asked her. My husband was telling her that we were no longer together. And I told her that no, we're not separated. We're still together. And that he's been lying to you and he's been lying to me. It was almost like, ironically, she was being cheated on too. She was just as shocked as I was. I was still talking to her and Sean came home. And I kept on talking to her.
She wanted to let me know that she was talking to Deborah. I was just so shocked.
I hung up the phone with her. I screamed, "You need to get the hell out of my life. You are not going to hurt me or my daughter any longer." And I took every single one of his clothes, ripped them out of the closet. I was screaming, I was kicking, I was pushing.
I knew that there was nothing for me to say, and I packed my stuff and had to leave.
It was only after he left that I started crying. I started bawling. How could I not know this person that I thought I knew backwards, inside out, and now he's a stranger? How could I have missed all of these signs? I felt like I just had the biggest con pulled over me.
I went to stay at a hotel for the night. During the affair, I kept thinking it's Sharon's fault that I'm doing this. When I was in that room, I was thinking, no, what did I do wrong? I could have talked to her, I could have told her how I was feeling more and sort of holding things in. It was me. I had to take responsibility. I knew I had to do something. I was going to do everything to try to win back my family.
When I found out about the affair, I was out of there. I was gone. And one thing stopped me, and that was I have to be able to turn to my child and say that I've tried everything that I possibly could to have her father and her mother together. She would be asking, when is Daddy coming home? What do you say? What could I say? I wanted him to have a relationship with her, so I let him see her.
Basically, every single day after work, I'd go to our house and spend time with Morgan.
He would start to say how sorry he was and how much he knows he's hurt me. I wasn't ready for that. I would say, if you want to see your child, that's fine, but unless this has to do with Morgan, don't talk to me. My family, my mom in particular, really wanted me to give him another chance.
I had conversations with Sharon's mom through this whole ordeal. I apologized